Are you ready to get your button pushed? You're tuned in to What's the Reason for This, the podcast where music meets madness, friends become family, and every conversation finds its own groove. Kick back, laugh loud, and let's find the reason together. The button has been pushed. Hello and welcome. What's going on, guys? We got another wonderful episode of What's the Reason for This podcast. Shay, what's going on, you sexy bitch?
Tired, man. I went to a bunch of shows this weekend. I did the triple threat. I went to a concert Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I regret.
You also have to add in I'm 40. So
yeah,
like,
well, yeah, I regret nothing, but my chronological age does. I had hell, even on the second day, I was standing in front of the stage watching Tonewood, and I started to stretch without, just like stretching my back and stuff. And I didn't realize it. And there's this old lady next to me, and she was cutting the rug, man. She was dancing, and she's like, man, are you already tired? You're a young buck. And I was like, well, I'm 40. And she's like, I'm 78. Suck it the fuck up.
I'm glad that everybody talks shit to you. Yeah. Well, I spent some time in Tulsa. I'm gonna keep it at that. My daughter wanted to go to a playground, and we fucking drove 12 hours to that playground. But I'm super stoked because I came home to a special little present. And that present is Mark Lavengood. What's going on, Mark?
How's it going, gentlemen? Thank you for having me. Oh my God.
Welcome, bud.
This is sweet. Yeah, feeling good, loving life, and honored and privileged to be chatting with the homies, man.
Dude, fuck yes. So for those of you that don't know, this is Huggy Bear. The first thing I need to understand, because I'm Kodi, K-O-D-I, and I say Kodi like Kodiak because I'm big as a bear. The people that know me know that I'm a teddy bear. The people that don't know me are like, holy shit, you're a lot bigger in person than I thought you were on the internet. I gotta figure out, where did Huggy Bear come from, bud? Mark?
Wow. Yeah, diving right into it.
I have to. And then, because then that'll give me the foundation to get back to who Huggy Bear is. But like the name, the myth, the legend, right? Like you recently just had a picture. Not many people are lifting Billy's strings up so that his feet are dangling in the air. But Huggy Bear is. Yes, buddy. So what's the background on that, dude?
Huggy Bear came, I was in the early years when I was actually, an aspiring bluegrass picker, just kind of wetting my teeth, wetting the whistle, getting my chops under my thumb with the dobro, before I even know who Rob Ikes and Jerry Douglas were. I was living in Grand Rapids, working in the kitchen at Founders Brewing Company, and playing in a band called Winter Sessions, and that was like, my early musical roots. And when I went in for the interview at Founders, fresh out of college, I went in and did the interview. It went great. At the end, the manager's like, hey, this was sweet. We'll call you back sometime. And he reached out his hand. I was like, come on, give me a hug. And gave him a hug, and he liked that, and it was cool, and I guess that left an impression. I got the job, and then as he's introducing me to everyone at the company at the time, he's like, this is Mark. He likes to hug people. We call him Huggy Bear. And so it was at Founders, and so like Founders had a lot of live music, still does, and so I was just loving life and the culture and my freedom and working during the day, bluegrassing it up at night, trying to gig and play and find shows and just jam and do all the things. And when I'm working, in the deli, is really connected with all the artists coming through and making sure they were getting served to the top degree, and just like as I was playing too, just introducing myself, networking, and so everyone in the scene knew me as Huggy Bear, because they're coming through Founders, everyone's coming through Founders.
Sure.
And then I got to a point where I started gigging more, and so I was Huggy Bear. A lot of people only know me as Huggy Bear,
But dude, I think that it fits so well because, like me, you're a fucking
I'll be honest, I kind of want to give you a hug right now.
Right? I feel it, boys.
Dude, let's fucking go. But that's what I'm saying is like you're a vibe and it encapsulates like who you are in that energy, right? But like you got into Founders. What I want to talk about a little bit more was your foundation in music and like where the journey started, right? Were your parents musicians? And I know that you started behind a kit, right? Like you started behind the drums.
Yeah, drums were my first instrument. I grew up, my pops was, in bands at the time, and he had a practice space in the basement, and played that
What kind of
classic
music was he
rock,
playing?
man.
Dude, yes. So
Classic
dad
rock,
rock.
just
He was playing dad
shredding
rock.
gnarly.
Yes. Yes.
And like, and so, there's a picture of me as a baby, holding the 83, Les Paul. And so it was always there and around. And my mom was a huge music aficionado, biggest fan of the Boss. She'll tell everybody to this day. So that was always there. Music was always a huge component of my life. I didn't think of it as such. It just was, always singing and listening to lyrics and, pretending I knew all the lyrics and drumming and stuff. But then my brother is 5 years older than me. He was in band and he was a percussionist. And so naturally I wanted to be a drummer, And so when band came
Are you
around,
the baby of the family?
I'm the middle child.
Okay. You're
Yes.
looking at two babies over here.
Oh, nice, boys. Very
Yeah.
cool.
But I understand how it is. So the older sibling picks something out, right? And you're like, all right, well, we already got the fucking drum kit, so
The
get
drums
after it.
here. Yeah, totally. Like you just looking up to Big Bro, and he's playing drums. The kit's there. I was like, all right, cool. And so I was like, I want to be a drummer, I guess. And I was in percussion, in band, and I was in through high school too. But then I stopped after the freshman year. Just conflict of interest with all the scholastics going on, but picked up the kit a year later, taught myself how to play that with my buddies in winter sessions, and didn't play. That was all I played, until I was 18, and started playing other instruments then.
So
But
were
yeah,
you
that's
playing were you playing like the classic rock, or what were you, cuz you have spanned all sorts of genres. And so for me, what I like doing is like pulling the layers back of seeing like foundationally, like where did that come from, right? So like obviously
yeah.
mom and dad have a huge influence on, and your brother has an influence on that.
hmm
What were you playing? And then at 18 you said something switched. So I'm guessing you went away to school?
Well, I that summer, I don't know what it was. My buddy Ben Fiddler, one of the main component songwriters of Winter Sessions. We were just a bunch of buddies, went to school together, and then we all went to college and went away. But we'd always get back together and have a session and just write, record, and never like had intention to like sell CDs or like make money or play shows. It was very capitalist, and we were very anti-establishment, and so, but it was just incredible, man. It was for the session, and that was like just live improv, and they're really, they're dedicated songwriters and song like wordsmiths, and I was the multi instrumentalist. But for the early years, Ben and I were wrestlers, and so we knew each
Grape
other through
smugglers.
sports. Yeah, man.
Buddy. Oh, buddy. I
Grappling,
got I
the
got
Yeah, dude.
WrestleMania, man.
Oh, buddy, Greco-Roman. I'll let you go first. I have a
Yes.
shattered eye socket from a little wrestling frat boy that caught me on a split level. That's a story for another day. Um,
Dang, man, that's amazing. Yeah,
dude,
no,
so
in
you're
high school.
feisty. Fuck yes, Mark. You're
Oh
a
yeah,
feisty little bud.
I'm a spirit
Yes.
warrior, man. Like I got a big heart, light as a feather. But if I have to
No
kill a
wonder you
motherfucker,
want to fucking hug. You're ready to fucking suplex these dudes over the top.
yeah.
Just be like, ugh.
Oh man, no, yeah, it's. I tell you what, man, I learned so much about being the you know human I am today through sports, and it's funny
Fuck
because
yeah.
like after high school, I stopped. I didn't pursue sports further. It's just like so much commitment, and I was not like. I was good. I was a great team leader, and everything, but like I was not like I'm 5'9", like 200-pound build. I'm gonna get smashed, and so I just like didn't pursue it. But like it absolutely, has a huge element in just like my, work ethic, and
And Ben did
yeah,
that with you?
yeah. Ben was a wrestler, so we were wrestling together, and he asked me to play in this school performance for his English class. He put a band together. Frisco
For
to
English?
Yeah, it
Okay,
was
I'm
like
glad that didn't cat anyone out. Okay, that's interesting. All
I
right,
know
yeah. You
Frisco de
say that like it's
Nera.
like, oh yeah, everybody has to put a band together for English class. That's that's a standard thing.
Oh man, yeah, no, it was for his like his like capstone English project or something, and he performed a song he wrote, and so he's like, Mark, you're a drummer, right? And I was like, well, I was in percussion. I never played the drums, but if you're gonna let me hang out, hell yeah, I'll come, you know. So that was like how I started playing live, man, you know, and yeah, like
So you
here I
just
am
had to
to this
feel it
day.
by ear and just go.
I just went, man. Yeah. And with drums, I mean, it's playing drums is one of the most intuitive instruments, I believe, just because it's like one of the most primal, earliest, in like our species development of instruments. You put skin on a piece of wood and tie, fucking intestines around it. I don't know, let it dry and then you're banging it. Now you can speak for, hundreds of miles or however far, they
Oh, buddy,
communicate these
I
things.
come from the land of beating root vegetables, so fucking I know
Yes,
exactly
dude.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, but it's cool because like that gave you like this backbone, right? And like you had to figure it out because you weren't like taught how to do this, and this is just you being intuitive and finding this thing. But at the same time, you're also starting to pick up different instruments, right? So like when did you start picking up the dobro and start transitioning away from the kit?
Yeah, man. So I never thought for those like, first few years that I didn't think I was smart enough to play another instrument. Because my buddy was so smart and he played so smooth and sweet, I'm just sitting here using the low tom, the floor tom for an Emma stand and shit, just, drumming along. And then one day I picked up my dad's Strat that was sitting on the side of the couch, my whole high school, career, and I picked it up and just like did a little two note thing, I was like, ba, ba, da, like a whole step, like two notes, but those notes in my mind, I was like, oh, that's the sound in this Chili Pepper song, and it was like the
Mm.
interval of like the riff, and I played it and I tied it together. It sounded like that. I don't know if it was the exact same note. It definitely was not perfect pitch then, and not necessarily now even, but like I've got good ear now because I've honed it, but it inspired me and it turned a switch. There's a switch flip. Like I cannot do this. I'm not smart enough to. Oh my god, I just did this. How did I do that? I guess I can do this. And so I opened myself up to it and started playing guitar. Got a guitar, and then started playing electric guitar. Dad's guitars around, and so there's a bass. So I was kind of noodling on that, and very much an autodidact where I, like to learn things and teach myself how to do things, and you know, uh, like to do things myself too. Not that I need to, but so I, would just like learn by tabs and listen to stuff online and figuring out the key and learn a chord and.
So
Once I learned one
do you feel
instrument,
like you were reading music more or doing it more by ear? Or was it a
no, I
balance of
was
both for you?
Well, for me, it was like what I would do was go online and see a song and figure out the chord, and so then there's a chord and I figured out the chords. I didn't know chords, and so how do you play chords?
Yeah,
Here's
because
the
this is
chord
the time,
change.
just so people know, like we come from America Online, like dial up internet. Like
Yeah, man. There's
we
like I was
couldn't
printing
just
out
like
pages and shit.
yeah, like we couldn't just like go somewhere and be like, oh, let's go to this Facebook group, this fan club, and
Yeah,
find the
there
exact
was no
tablature.
YouTube,
Yeah.
or if it was there, it certainly was not as developed and extensive as it is now. But yeah, so I would just look up like, especially I didn't know how to play guitar, so what is a chord? As like a series of notes played together, and so I learned chords and then progressions naturally just through playing many songs. I was like, oh, these progressions sound similar. I was like, okay, but they're different keys, and you use different chords, but the movement of the chords sounds similar. And so I just like I taught myself a lot just by learning. I didn't so much know the language or the vocabulary. I did teach myself some, and I was in school for some, and early years, but I learned the guitar and then ukulele, and then bass, and then my buddy Ben wanted to learn mandolin, and he had a resonator guitar. It was a round neck though, so not a square neck dobro, but an acoustic guitar with a resonator. And I borrowed that, and then I just bought him a mandolin, and so then our band went from like four guitarists to a banjo, mandolin, resonator guitar. I was playing slide for a year before I got an actual square neck resonator. So it just like opened up so many soundscapes. And banjo and dobro are pretty similar instruments in terms of the way you play them. And so, there's a lot of crossover. But I would just go for it, and early on, I wasn't even a huge fan of bluegrass, like now I love it, of course, but I love all genres and styles. And at the time I liked a
Yeah,
lot
hold
of
on. I just want to say one thing. We could fucking listen to more than one band. We can listen to more than one genre. We can
Yes.
go and we can accept other music. Like, holy shit, I know this is a fucking mind-bending
Dude,
thing
Yes.
here, but
one
like,
of my favorite things
Jesus
is growing
Christ,
up to a
people.
party. I grew up listening to heavy metal, and I really still have a soft spot for like metalcore and all that kind of all that the grind,
Dude.
all that stuff that was I love it. And people know me for bluegrass because that's especially in Colorado that there's just you can't swing a dead cat without going finding a bluegrass show. So I'll pull up to the bar or whatever, and I'll be blasting some metalcore band, and people are like, "Well, I thought you liked bluegrass." I do. That's why I'm always trying to get bluegrass bands to know to cover Slipknot songs, but they won't fucking do it.
Yeah.
Buddy, I'm screaming white boy reggae lyrics the top of my
Absolutely,
fucking
dude.
lungs for blocks.
Yes.
But that's what's cool is like it gives us that foundation of what we like in music. So Mark, what were you used to playing, and then how did that start to transition? The big thing for me is like, how was you going from a drummer to now playing a resonator or dobro? Like, you still drove the sound with your instrument, right? And from a dobro, that's few and far between. So like, how obviously your energy plays into that and being like a team leader and being like, let's fucking go. But musically, like, how was that for you?
It was I was still playing drums with winter sessions, because I was the most competent of the batch, the bunch of us, and I did love it, and I still every time I come into the studio, sit down and I play the drums, man. But yeah, it's interesting because there's so much percussion in mental and melodic instruments. So like you take the dobro and the banjo, and you got your picks, is a da 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 da, that's a snare tut 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 tut. So it's like you got to have time. You got to understand like how it all fits together. The rhythms that are baked in. Like so it definitely does play into the grand, universal nature of music. Even with the fiddle, like with the wrist and shit, and then you got your tonal structures you can sculpt with that, and so it was still in there, but I wasn't playing the drums, so I have been learning so much about myself in my adult life, and turns out I am big into the abstract nature of, existence. And yeah, so like the way I think is definitely as such, and music is a universal component, a universal language, and once you learn how to speak it, as a player, if you continue it and pursue it, you see the similarities. And and then as a player, you get to tap into like the, path of mastery where like, okay, we're playing this thing that everyone knows, and then we're going to be free with it here. And then we're going to, build it. And, like, it's cool, man. Yeah. It's beautiful, but
Well, and this is why there's so many musicians, but you are genuine, and that's what makes you shine so bright, right? Is because you are embracing that difference, and you're fucking you, and you're unapologetically you, and
yes.
it has worked, and it continues to work in that transition, right, of you now playing these winter sessions and things like that. When did you end up meeting Lindsay Lou?
Yeah, dude. So I was, winter sessions for the early years, man. We ended up giving it a go. We were playing around the scene, we made some CDs and went to studio and, and played some festivals and did some tours, and but then everyone kind of went their separate ways. And
Because everyone's like, fuck tour life. This shit
I know.
sucks.
Well, we were also like, young, very big hearts, but like
You got
fragile
lots of sleep, Mark.
emotions.
You got lots of sleep, right?
Oh
And
hell
everybody
yeah,
was
we did.
very well hydrated, and everybody was perfect mental health. That's just how it works early on the
Yeah,
road, and we don't even know each other, right? We use substances
yes.
to cover things up, and like I can't imagine touring, right? Like being out on the road and not being able to fucking get away from
It's
someone.
not for everyone, man, dude, for sure. It's a lifestyle, it's a
That's what I've
commitment,
learned. Talking to
you know.
musicians,
Hell yeah.
I would hate that shit.
No, dude, fuck yeah. No, you learn, like I've, since leaving the road with Lindsay full time at the time and I'm not on the road per se. I'm gigging a bunch, but it's more local, regional and popping out for some national gigs here and there now. And I've got two little ones, so like they're getting older and it opens up opportunities for me to, pop out for stuff and
Oh
yeah,
fuck yeah!
so like it
How old are your
is
kids, buddy?
7 and 9.
Dude, 9 and 6. Turned 7 in
What?
June. Let's go.
Oh, that's amazing, man. That's beautiful, brother.
Yeah, dude.
That's
So I
super,
know exactly where you're at. They can like
dude.
wipe
Yeah,
their own ass and feed themselves. Like it's like close, right? Like you
yeah. I mean, they're
almost have,
pretty much,
but
like child adults, man. It's
yeah,
crazy,
but then like don't you look at them and you like still wish they were little babies, right? And you're like, fuck, don't go away. Like my nine
Oh
year
yeah,
old is
no,
like going on 19. She is
for
fucking
sure. Well, I remember when I was 18, and like I was like, okay, I'm free, you know. And
yeah.
everyone's different, man. Everyone's different. It's a different day and age, a different time to be alive. But I just know me, and when it was like that, I was like, woof, and like grateful to have the family and the connections and the friends to be able to, continue to stay connected with, and like using that way of living as an example, like, to keep my heart and home open, and like it's not mine, it's for the community, like just like I had the people and the families there to help put their energy into me, like I get to give that back, and so
That's fucking awesome. Did
you
your
know
perspective change a bunch? Because for me, like, I had what I call was like my oh shit moment. Like, my wife was like, hey, I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. Like, everything, like, now, like, there is more of a purpose, right? Like, I
yeah.
quit, like, drinking and being as much of a fucking idiot as I was before. I, like, focused on, like, trying to create, like, a stable life that I didn't have for myself, right? Was there something like that for you?
There was definitely the oh shit moment, like oh shit, we're pregnant. And we are not married, and weren't married, and so, but we ended up deciding to keep the baby, and it was a journey and a process, man, and I realized, I mean, I always knew, I couldn't have it any other way, but like, and so had the baby, and we've been living incredibly sweet since. I ended up having another one a little after, and the purpose in life definitely shifted. I'm a father first and foremost, and you know, but we still have our lives, but it's. Yeah, I don't know. I've always been a provider though, and I was, caretaker at a young age, so just like being cognizant of it, and just like stepping up, man, it's everything where I'm at is exactly where I want it to be, and it's a beautiful life we get to live, man. I remember my kids every day, how lucky and privileged we are to, get to do it and be doing the things we are. It's tight and it's hard, but it's like that for everyone, and so, it's yeah, incredible. It's the best.
Yeah, man, it is. And Shay's like, God damn it, you guys stop talking about your
You
kid.
fuck kids. I will never have kids,
He's,
brother.
Yeah,
he's
I
like,
got kids. I'm not having kids. That's not a thing for me. I have
I
dogs.
love,
That's not.
bro. I love it, man. I
Yeah.
just saw a Seth Rogen interview. Like, he's talking about like some interviews, like, well, don't you think you might want to have kids, or you regret not having kids? man, like that I wouldn't live my life. Me and my wife don't want to do that. It's just like it's a choice, and it's beautiful, man. You know, it's not like there's not an abundance of youth to be influenced, you know, for the better. Like we are still having, you know, an influence in doing our part, you know, whether or not it's our own kids, you know. You fucking
Oh, for
I mean,
sure. And that's where it's just like Shay's like, God damn it. Because for me, like it's definitely I've choked up on the podcast before about the kids, and it's
I was
definitely
wondering if you
different.
were gonna cry.
No, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, sometimes he
I
cries.
well, and that's the thing is like people give me so much shit. They're like, "Oh, well, fucking you never leave. You're not going to these shows." Well, first off, I go to a shitload of shows in Colorado. I can't leave to go nationally, right? And it's like, how often are you seeing your kids? Because I know I see my fucking kids every fucking day, and I make a point of it, right? And so like it definitely is a shift, but I don't want to make that what this is about. The one I do want to make about just had a brand new baby, and that's Lindsay. So how were you introduced to her?
yes.
Bart's like a little over a year old, and they've been going through their transition. But I want to know, Mark, about you and Lindsay, how you guys hooked up. Were you a session artist and met her, or what was that story behind that?
Dude, fucking hey, funny you say this, you know. I just do this, you know, show you a little bit of behind the scenes here. Got the Ionia album there, if you can see
Yes,
that, in the studio here. Picked that up. She gave it to me at the Orange Peel show post
in
Billy
Asheville
show
after
in
Billy.
Asheville. I was like, I fucking find a bunch. I actually can't take this, man. You know, I'll get it later or ship it to me or fuck. You know, and like I just literally didn't have space. She's like, no, you can just carry it on. I'm like, right, I can, and I'm like
Yeah.
fucking looking for all my shit. And I'm glad fucking that was the call, man. But no, so I met Lindsay and the crew at the time at Bliss Fest Music Festival, one of our favorite Michigan music festivals. Shout out to Bliss. I'll be playing there this summer.
Let's go.
Returning there rather. But at the time, I it was the summer of 2010. I just released my debut album, instrumental album. She had just released her debut album. We didn't know each other, and but we were both there at the festival, and they have this thing, open mic at the Song Tree at Bliss Fest. So they were practicing in the woods for the Song Tree, and I was at a point where I was just like wandering around trying to jam with everyone, you know, just literally with dobro and tote. You know, there's sounds of bluegrass. I'm in the jam, and I would just go in the jam, you know, and that's what I did, you know, for forever. And I heard this mandolin playing. I was like, oh, that's a pretty mandolin. And so I'm like drawn to her. I started like ping, you know, and I'm like in my short shorts, you know, only, you know, nothing else. And it's summer, July in northern Michigan, and they're playing Mercy, one of Lindsay's early numbers, and I was like, wow, I sat by, I was hanging. They didn't know me, and I don't think I knew them. I maybe knew Josh and Spencer because they were in the band called the Flatbellies, which was a
Hmm.
bluegrass band based out of Lansing before Lindsay uh, united with them to, you
And they
know,
became one. Lindsay Lou and the
right.
Flatbellies. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I had like known of them and seen them in the scene, but I don't think we'd ever met. And after they got done playing, I was like, "Hey guys, man, my name's Mark. I play the dobro, and you guys sound great, man. I'd love to can I jam with you, you know?" And very forward, and they're like, "Well, man,
You
we never."
never. Get the fuck out of
Yeah.
here,
You
Mark.
know, just all skin in my short shorts. You know, it's
Showing
like,
them your grundle. Be like, let's go. Be like, we're getting dirty here.
and so like I was like, man, you know, I play dobro. You guys sound great, you know, and like and they're like, I don't know, guy, you know, we're rehearsing for the song tree. We're about to go play, and I was like, oh, cool, man. I was like, you playing another one? Can I jam? You know, they're like, what? I was like, well, at the midnight, Drew Howard is, you know, my primary influence on dobro. And I told them that, and it turns out Drew had played with them and recorded on this song. And so, you know, they're like, well, I guess you can play while we rehearse, you know. And I played with them then for the rehearsals of the song they were about to do. And they're like, well, hey, man, you're not too bad. You want to come with us? You know? So I went with them and just hung out, and it was the beginning. I was playing with a bunch of bands in Chicago at the time, living in Chicago. Then this was like 2010,
Fuck the
and then
Bears. Sorry. Fuck the Bears.
Fuck the Bears.
Go Bears. Fuck them. Okay, just
Um,
got to get that out of my system.
but yeah, no, I was playing with a bunch of bands, and then I started playing with Lindsay Lou at the time, and then I was like, man, we should just give it a go. I'm with all these other bands. I really just want to be with one band that's doing it, and that was the one that I really wanted to be the one of all the ones I was in. And so I went to the homies, and we're all working part time doing something and doing music, trying to get it to be our main thing. And I was like, guys, let's do it, let's do it. And it's like, how much do we all need a month? Like I can book us shows. We'll just play. We'll make sure our expenses are where they need to be, and we'll cover our cost of living, and we'll at least break even. And so we did that, and it went good. Reception was pretty solid, and then shortly thereafter, we got picked up by the Americana agency.
Nice.
John and Lucy were helping us out for so many years, and it was off to the races.
Yeah, man, it sure fucking was. Because you spent what, the next 7 years with them, or was it
Yeah,
longer than that?
dude. Yeah, 7 years.
Yeah, bud. Fucking
Chefs.
7 years is a really long time.
Totally. Yeah.
And
Yep.
so, what was there something that came up that you're like, all right, fuck it? Did you want to go back and start the Bear Den, or what was it that made you go like, all right, this chapter is coming to an end and focusing on what that next page is going to be?
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything. There's so much love and admiration for the project, and the unit. And Lindsay was very open and receptive to playing some of my songs too. But like just I wanted to have more time ultimately. The amount of time that we were all giving to the project was pretty much like our whole lives, and whatever we didn't have book we could squeeze in, which is pretty much the, name of the game for folks, these days. You got your main gig you love the most, and then you're filling in the gaps. Maybe you're trying to get this side project up and going, while you're doing something else. And for me, it wasn't yeah, it wasn't that I wanted to leave. It was just like a conflict of interest of like, Lindsay and the crew wanted to like ramp it up where I was trying to dial it back. And, now I'm living in Michigan and they're all in Nashville, and the expenses of having me involved, it's just costly at the time when we, were making decent money and more. But like, for all the time we're putting in, it was like just tough. I
No,
definitely had. Well, what's that?
I was gonna say it could be a lot, right? And it's heavy on you. And if it's predominantly your time, and especially for you as a musician, like trying to find your own voice, right? And if you're only getting so much time to play your own music, what was it like during those 7 years? Were you still writing and creating on your own on the side, or do you feel like your whole process was being taken over by the main gig?
No, it wasn't so much that, I was actually writing a bunch, in our downtime together. I wrote a bunch of tunes while we were on tour, with Lindsay Lou and the Flatbellies. And when I wasn't driving, just sitting in the back and having the, space and time to let your mind wander, so it's definitely, a lot of reciprocal energy, in and out, and she recorded on some of my stuff too. And but yeah, no, like it really just was like, wanting to do many other things too. And like it'd be one thing if we were making like 5 times the amount of money each, but
Yeah.
like considering the amount of time we didn't have extra and the amount of money is just like so tight, and like it's the same old story, and which is, I did study business and Spanish in college, so I did have, I mean, I do have a business mindset, and I come from a family of a lot of small business owners, restaurant owners, and I've always worked for small businesses and, have my own small business and, help co-found, the Smiling Acres Music Festival, built out my studio here, and this is all stuff I wouldn't have been able to do if I was touring full time, with any project. So I absolutely understand the value of your time, and it's hard to make a decision like that, to leave something so fucking good that's only at the point of blowing up, and she's, only continued to crescendo. And, and we're still fam, we're fam for life. But it's definitely hard in the moments, just like switch, like life shifts and phase shifts. But I step back and look at, I'm in my studio here on my property. I got my family, I got my career, all the collaborations, and I still feel, like I barely scratched the surface of the potential, for better and
Yeah, but
worse.
yeah, but
But
buddy, you're also still in the middle of this fucking ride, right? And
oh yeah,
so
oh for sure,
so
that's the
f-
beauty of
the
it.
ability for you to even have that and taste that, right? And then your personality to know, like, hey, no, this isn't for me. Because, like, think had you just kept chasing and pushing yourself, whether you would have had like a breakdown of some sort, right? Where you're just like, fuck this, like I hate it. And then, because like I know that you have an amazing cover band called Prime Time,
Yes.
and like John Prine is one of those guys, right? So his debut album is one of the greatest albums of all time. It is
Yes.
literally self-titled John Prine. But what people don't realize is in the middle of his life, he wasn't playing a bunch of fucking music for like 20 years. He took it slow and then came back. He still wrote and he was still creative, right? And he was
Yeah.
still having this process, but he didn't let it take over his life. And I feel like it's crazy because like you have a similar trajectory where you're like taking off and slowing down, but you're still creating. And we've seen, buddy, we've seen all that talent and what you're still putting out. And so it's pretty cool. I want to fucking know because I love John Prine, where did that come from? So, like, obviously, you said you were bluegrass, but you don't hear a lot of John Prine cover bands.
Yeah, man. So I was exposed to John's music through one of my best friends, another Winter Sessions collaborator, Russ Brakefield. He's out in Colorado, actually living in Denver. Just had a baby himself. Shout out to the homies, and we've written a number of songs together too. But he gave me, and his family too, man. Huge in the into the dead and just good music, of the ilk, the festival culture, going to live music, and just like that's our church sort of person, and I, there's people in a lot of people in my life now, but like growing up, my family had its influences, but like that's not the type of person they not that they wouldn't want to be doing that, but like we know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and
no,
and
for sure.
so and so it had a profound influence on me musically, and just like vibe wise. So they gave me the Great Days anthology double disc when I was, in my junior year of college or senior year, and I just like turned it on and just soaked it over like and just blasted me, man. And so it just became a part of my identity. I just loved it so much and was listening to it all the time. And then I think it was 2015 when I first put the tribute project together, named it Prime Time, and
Dude, the best, the
assembled some of my
best name.
favorite Michigan artists together, and we started playing shows as such. And yeah, now I'm kind of billing it more as just like a John Prine tribute, act. But I mean, I bill it as whatever you want, baby. Let's fucking play a show.
Yeah, fucking get it out there. But that's what's crazy is like you still have all these different genres and verticals that you're tapping into, these artists you're still creating, right? You
Yeah.
are still a musician yourself, but you also have the Bear Den, which is your recording studio, right? And so what I
Yes.
love is the eclectic range of musicians that you've had come in, because not only are you a studio, but you're a management and agency, correct?
Yeah, so Bear Mark Productions in the early years, spawned into being as booking agency primarily. Um, and then I got to a point where I was trying to build a company, trying to train, agents, trying to serve the artists, and this is all me, one man owner operator sort of vibe, and just like it was just so much to manage, and my I've always just like like always put my own personal art and projects it needs last, so like I wasn't serving that, I was doing the bare
Quit
bones
fucking
like
doing that, Mark.
I know, bro. I know.
Quit
I
fucking
know.
doing that,
And
buddy.
this is kind of where I'm at now, where I'm like, so I stopped doing the agency, and I kind of realized that it is just me right now, and it has been. So like, I can consult and do all these things, and I was helping book some bands for a bit, but yeah, like for the last few years, I've just been more focused on, booking the Mark Lavengood band and projects I'm involved with creatively. But with, I'm in a different phase now too. This is, I'm very entrepreneurial, and I love that about myself. And I acknowledge the shortcomings it brings with, being a squirrel with a million ideas that are all great, and every year I feel like I'm trying to like trim off the fat, like what do I like to do? What do I love to do? What brings me the most, earnings to be able to do everything I do, and every year is shifting a little bit, but like, definitely in the phase of, prioritizing the Mark Lavengood project and band, and the personality too, I mean, I'm just open, like a fucking valve to opportunities while simultaneously, like getting ready to drop another album, 2 volume album series. I'm planning on
Under
developing
which under which project, Mark? Plug
the
it.
Mark Lavengood band.
It
Yeah,
is
so
the
this is
Mark
gonna be
Lavengood thing.
Wake Up Volume 1, which should be dropping soon. And Volume 2 will be later this year. Volume 1 is a collection of a lot of singles that I put out in the last few years, with some new ones as well. But I haven't put any merch to it, and I want to put it to vinyl too. Um, and it's also just like, flushing through a lot of life, energy, emotions, feelings, snippets of songs that are sitting there waiting, and the the theme crosses over for sure, but I've also got like so many different ideas for further recordings and albums and chunks of songs. It's one of those things where it's like almost so inundating, where I feel debilitated and I can't do anything because I have so much to do, you
For
know.
sure.
But every day I just remind myself, what's the list today? What's the priorities? We got it all, catalog, what needs to be done. And, everything comes in different phase shifts. And sometimes you pivot hard. And, I'm just like always trying to, yeah, flow with the current. And, there's never a shortage of things to do, projects to record, my own, other artists I'm working with. And, yeah,
All right, you
like,
just got done playing a weekend full of shows, and then I'm pretty sure this week you're heading down to St. Augustine as an artist at large for some after parties, right?
yes, I
Who's playing in
just
St.
dropped
Augustine?
that like,
Anybody I would have ever heard of?
oh man, shucks. This guy who plays the guitar. I mean, I don't know. Yes, dude, the Billy Strings runs
That's
the
gonna be
stretch,
so fun, dude.
early freaking spring stretch. I was hoping and planning on going, and I just bought my ticket a couple days ago, and put a lot of pop up shows together. Shout out to my homie Sam Snyder at Spinster and Abbott, in St. Augustine, and yeah, the Sarbez as well. Got a few pre and post shows going on, and you bet your ass you're gonna be seeing Huggy Bear booking and cooking it on the dance floor for the
Dude,
show.
go see those butt cheeks and them fucking short shorts. All right, give
I'm
him
gonna
give
be
him
like
give him a
Bad Bunny
slap
in that
for me.
motherfucker.
Uh, only Huggy Bear because he consents. Don't do it to any non-consenting individual. Okay, we're
Yes,
not like
that's
that. We are
yeah. No,
not fucking like that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
dude, it's pretty sick because it's given a little bit of a charge to your personality, right? And so it was dope because nobody in that scene knew of you unless they were OGs, right? Everybody
Right.
from the
Yeah, yeah.
mitten knows. And I were
Right.
talking about, I was like, I fucking remember this dude playing with Lindsay Lou.
Yeah.
Cause you're a fucking vibe, dude. You are a vibe. And so like I remember I saw that picture posted of you fucking hugging William, and and I was like, no fucking way. Of course, these dudes know each other. And then fucking, I think it was the next day or that day was like the Freak Fair announcement. So like, I don't
Yes.
know what you can talk about or what is permitted, but we can talk about what already happened, which was in fucking
Yes.
Asheville over those 6 day runs. The Freak was unleashed, right?
Oh man, it was incredible. Yeah, no. So I do got to clarify one thing though. In that picture, I'm not hugging him. I'm actually gently adjusting his spine. Like, I was just like giving him a little back crack, you know. There's like,
Oh, this was Dr. Mark Lavengood.
and I suspended him just a little, ever so slightly, so the spine could settle into place, and then kind of, boop, and then I gave him a big old bear hug.
Oh,
But that
buddy, you know
particular one.
I'm the son of a chiropractor, so believe
Oh,
me, I know
doggy, yeah.
the
Well, some
distribution of.
people, some bears want to get up in there and just be like, "Here, let me give you an adjustment," just like squeeze the shit out of you. It's like that's
Like,
not
don't do that.
always
Don't
good, or
don't do
even
that. Consent, ladies and gentlemen.
again,
Consent is key.
yes.
Yes. But so like how did obviously you guys knew each other from coming up in the Michigan scene, doing all these festivals, being within the same fucking crew, right? So I'm sure that your relationship goes back a ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, totally, man. So like back when I was, when we were touring with Lindsay Lou and the Flatbellies, um, you know, when Billy was first getting started, like he moved up to Traverse City, and then he was working, and then he put in his 2 week notice because at that point he'd been busking and playing some shows, and just wanted to give it a go, so we met him like right around that time frame, and we were already touring at the time, and this is just a young buck getting into it, and we fucking loved him like everybody in the world did, and became quick friends, and yeah, tried to connect as much as possible. And you see Lindsay and him to this day still, singing their asses off, writing songs together, and they're all down in Nashville. They've got a spot um in in the region as well, and so like every now and then we'll try and pop out and see them if they're back in the hood, and I'm trying to get down to Nashville too.
Listen,
But yeah, we're
I just want to eat Kyle Tuttle's barbecue, okay? Like I just
I know, fucking spread it across the board, Oh shit! No, it is one big fan, man. It's like funny how small the world gets. The more revolutions, day by day that we get to, put into it, man. And so we've been buddies for sure, and supporters of each other forever. And he recorded on an album I put out in
yeah.
2014 called "No Part of Nothing," and I think we met him like a couple years before, like around 2012 ish. And and then since he's blown up, we've stayed in touch, and I'd sit in with him periodically at festivals we were both at, and and at this point, it's pretty much whenever I get the call, I answer quick, and try to show up and serve the space, and um yeah, man, fam for life, dude. He's an incredible soul, and the team is just like a well-oiled machine, and
And
they
they're all
gave me a
great people.
call.
And they're all great people too.
Oh, dude, yeah, top-notch people, most skillful. The way it's
So
sweet to
then
be
they
around.
called you, you go running, you're like, "What's going on? What the fuck happened?"
Yeah, they called me the week before the Asheville run, and I was actually planning on
No,
going
they
down and
fucking
just
didn't.
showing
Wait,
face. Yeah,
really?
a week before. And they didn't know I was planning on going down anyway, and so I get this call from Bill Orner, and he gives me a hi. He's like, "Hey, what's going on? And we got this run in August. Are you gonna be around?" I was like, "Of course I put the dates on my calendar when I saw the post, just like everybody else did."
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Yes." And he's like, "We got this position for you. We don't, it's gonna be a big role. We want you to do it." I was like, "Yes, sign me up." And they're like, "All right, what are you doing next week? Can you come down to Asheville?" I was like, "Yes, let's
You're
go."
like,
Um,
I got some buttons. I need you to fucking hand out some buttons real quick.
dude, put me to work, coach. Put me in, coach. But
So
yeah, so went down and did that. We did a bunch of promo, as we've all seen. There's a bunch that is still yet to be released. I don't know how much they're going to. I mean, they sold it out within a week. It's like, what do you do? It's like, what is promo at that point?
Is
You know?
anybody surprised? Or is any of us surprised? I mean, it's pretty cool for him to have his hometown festival, right? Like, and they were questioning about, like, well, the hotels are only in Grand Rapids, which is 45 minutes away. There's no camping. And have you ever seen this place when it rains? Have you seen it when it's sunny out? Like, everybody, like, the internet just, like, came out and wanted to ravage anything about Ionia and the Freak Fair. And, like, it's just like, is anybody ever gonna be fucking happy, right? But like, I know one dude is, and that's Mark Lavengood. So they called you and they're like, hey, we need you to promo. We got this Joker costume. Like, did they give you anything, or was that like they're just like, go be fucking freaky?
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't even know I was going to be the host until they got me fucking dialed up and started, recording some of the earliest, promo stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to be the host. Sweet, let's go. Uh, and I love it, I mean, you got to keep element of surprise to it. And, with their team, there's a lot of vagueness that needs to be maintained, as these things are unrolling. I mean, it was dropped Thursday and, I flew in that Tuesday. So yeah, they had the suit. They were like, all right, what's your shoe size? What's your size? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh. And yeah, just showed up. They had like a few pieces of paper for like, like here's the lineup, what we want you to say here, and here's this. And so I, got those down, and, I've never acted before, but I went for it. And yeah, it was so much fun.
Yeah, but they
And
picked the right guy because they're like, yep, no, this tracks.
they're smart as fuck, man. I'm not like, objectively. I'm not being
Yeah, oh
egotistical
yeah,
about it, but like,
don't strain your shoulder. We need you out there, okay? You just settle down. What about when you hit the streets? Because you were out
Oh,
there promoting the show. Like, how was it with the fans? Because a lot of them, nobody had any clue, right? Like,
yeah,
it
no,
was
no. I
dropped. Here
was,
it is, and then here's Mark
yeah,
freaking in the streets of Asheville.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So like some of them had seen the promo, and then a lot of them didn't know me. Maybe some people did. There's buzz going around, and and it was a scene for sure. It was the theatrical component was definitely distributed to everybody who was at the live show. In Asheville. So it was cool. It was super cool. Um, yeah, it was awesome. We interacted with the line, everybody waiting in line to get in, and then I went and I, I could
Mark's
probably say this. They didn't tell me not to say this. We were doing some like hitchhiking scenes, and I'm like, they didn't know, that I have actually hitchhiked a bunch in my life in my early years, and homie,
with your freak sign. Please tell me you were holding the freak sign.
no, well, the only, I've always had my guitar with me. I figured
Yeah.
if I have my guitar and I look like a decent dude, like I'm not gonna kill you, someone at some point will probably
Hey,
be more
that's what
likely
Ted
to give
Bundy
me a
said
ride.
too. Okay. Now
I
Ted
mean,
Bundy plays. Now Ted Bundy plays banjo for the Deer Creek Sharpshooters. Um,
Hey man,
yeah.
Charles Manson put out an album. It's got some good songs on it.
Well, I was every time I was doing it, I was always had my big ears and big eyes open. I love the social component of it, and I was never in a situation I didn't feel safe. But I mean, of course, I don't look like prey.
yeah,
I
no,
mean,
for sure.
predators prey on people they suspect to be prey. And I
I
do.
don't think the yellow suit was tracking in that general direction.
No,
Um,
that was more like lunatic psycho who maybe got let loose from some
be like, are they
institution.
making a new Joker movie? What is happening right now? I'm like, oh my god! But dude,
Yes.
that's got to be awesome. And obviously, coming up in August, that's going to be super huge from you. But you get to ride that wave for all this time before and after, right? And so, like, getting after it, putting out these songs, putting stuff. Where can people stay in touch? Find more about the Mark Lavengood projects, right? About Prime Time. Where can they see you coming up? Obviously, your social media handles. We need everything Mark Lavengood. Hit us, buddy.
Yes, yes. Well, everything's pretty much housed at my website, Lavengood.com. And it's I try to keep in all the places, and working with the homie Sam Sutton. We're developing some merch projects, and I'm just upping my online merch presence, which has been dismal and very terrible, and I give eternal
Buy Mark's
gratitude
merch.
to all the
Buy
folks. Buy my
Mark's
bottle.
merch. Buy Mark's
Yes.
merch.
But you can check it out. I got vinyl. I got new stickers that are coming out, and a bunch of new stuff coming too. It's at marklavengood.com. Yeah.
Awesome. And then what's your Instagram handle? Is it just Mark Lavengood or is it Mark Lavengood Music?
It's mark.lavengood, I want to say.
Well, we'll plug it in the description.
Yes,
Buddy,
sir.
I cannot thank you, from a Kodi Bear to a Huggy Bear. Thank you to a bald bear. Thank you so much for the time, buddy. I really love it. And I'm stoked to talk to you after the fact so that we can hear about all the shit that was, because, dude, I emceed Winter Wondergrass. And that was fucking, I had no idea what I was walking into. And holy shit, it was amazing. And I'm beyond grateful. But like, buddy, it was fucking work, man. It was a lot of work. And I'm super stoked to hear about on the other side and then how far you've come from then. So we'll talk to you soon. Everybody, go fucking follow this man. And we'll see you next week.
Dude, boys, can I give one last shout out before we cut here?
No,
Of course.
So like I
Fuck
live
whoever this
here.
person is.
No, truly, boys, Kodi, Shay, thank you so much for having me. One thing I didn't maybe even mention is this music festival here that's on my chest, the Smiling Acres Music Festival. I helped co-found it. I'm founding committee member. I'm the artist at large this year, sponsorship coordinator, doing all the things. It's 10 minutes from my house. Every year it's the weekend before the 4th of July. This year it's June 26th through June 28th.
Nice.
So yeah, you can check that out online too.
Smiling Acres Music Festival.
Yes.
Let's fucking go. I rescind my fuck that guy statement from before. Let's fucking go to the Smiling Acres Music Festival. Let's go. Mark, thank you for everything. Shay, go to work.
No, I don't wanna. Thanks